Ready. Good evening and welcome to another crucial conversation with Avanse and Ansanm. Today's topic is such an amazing topic. We're talking about the costs and expectations of aging Haitian parents. And we have a special guest with us, Mr. Kenneth Victor of Chin Medical,
Hello.
Senior Medical Centers.
Chin Senior Medical Center.
And before we go into our discussion, we're going to tell you a little bit about Avanse Ansanm. Avanse Ansanm is a movement for Haitian American millennials to preserve Haitian culture and Haitian Americans, to build economic and political power, and to be working towards a shared agenda to advance all things Haitian. And today, although we're talking about health and aging Haitian parents, it really is tied to economics and our ability to build wealth. So I'll pause here and we'll go to Kenneth for him to introduce himself and to tell us how he got into this work, and then we'll talk about the subject.
Okay, awesome. First off, thank you for having me. So I'm a native of South Florida, born and raised. Went to school in South Miami Senior High is where I graduated from. I left South Florida to go to Tennessee. Graduated with a long-term care and business administration degree from Southern Adventist University. Then a few years later, obtained my MBA from Webster's, and then moved back here to South Florida. While in South Florida, I started my career in the senior living. So I've worked mainly in long-term care, worked at assisted living, skilled nursing, worked in memory care units, and most recently I transitioned to the long-term care side to the primary care side, where I am here now working with Chin Senior Medical Center.
I'm so happy to have you.
Awesome.
So let me backtrack for some folks who may be listening and may be interested in working with long-term facilities or anything in the geriatrics kind of industry. So when you got your master's degree, was it an MBA with a specialization or an MBA in general?
So it was a general MBA. There are a few people in my class, my graduating class, that did get a MHA, Master's in Health Administration.
Right.
But for me, I just felt as though going to MBA general track provided me with a little bit more flexibility.
Right, and you already had that undergrad.
Exactly,
right,
exactly.
So tell us more about how you got into geriatrics.
Well, it's an interesting story. And so while I was in undergrad, I was the president of a Black Christian Union. And part of our mission was to do outreach ministry in the community. And one spring break, instead of coming down to South Florida, a friend and I decided to stay in Tennessee. So I was working with Adult Protective Services in Tennessee, and we'd received a call that there was an elderly lady that was living by herself, and she had to go to the hospital for about a month for a procedure. And at home, she had cats and dogs as companions, and she had made arrangements for someone to let the animals out, to feed them. Unfortunately, fast forward, months later, she came home, and that didn't happen. Wow. So you can imagine, the condition of the house. So I got a call, said, "Hey, Ken, I know you're here. Got some work for you." So we came, cleaned up the house, pulled carpet, kind of clean and sanitize. And as we were pulling the rugs and the carpet out for the city to pick up, a friend and I were outside, and we looked a couple of houses down, and there was a gentleman, minding his business, doing his own thing. And I asked my friend, his name was Steve, I said, "Steve, I wonder if this gentleman knows that this lady is living like this. Right. And if he did, would he have done something about it," right? So from that experience bore my desire to, as I put it, care for those that can no longer care for themselves, and my love for seniors.
I mean, that's very great. And some people, they prefer children. Some
right.
people prefer adults. And seniors are, especially in our community, very valuable. They have a lot of wisdom.
Yeah, as you mentioned that, there's a saying that the sun is just as beautiful setting as it is rising.
That is great.
Right? So oftentimes, as you say, oftentimes, as you say, we cater and we are drawn to the children. where for me there's a special draw to those that have come before us.
That's amazing. So tell us about the work that you're doing here at Chen, and what Chen is doing in this community.
So the mission here at Chen is to care for the neediest population. And we do that through PCP-led care teams. We aim to deliver VIP service. We detect and manage high-risk diseases, those chronic diseases, those acute diseases, such as CHF,
What's CHF?
Congestive heart failure, COPD. Our main goal and objective is to reduce hospital sick days. Okay. So we know that when someone goes in the hospital, number one, 3 to 5 night hospital stay can run you anywhere from $13,000 to $15,000. In addition to that, and while you're in the hospital, you start to decompensate and things. So our primary goal and objective is to reduce hospitalization, and we do that through our values of love, accountability, and passion.
And Chen is got founded in Florida, right?
Right. So in Miami Gardens.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
wow.
Here in South Florida, and we are growing. It's a beautiful model, different than the current model, because we know healthcare is complex in America, too complex.
Right.
So we try to keep things simple here at Chen, and we love to continue to extend that to our community here in South Florida.
Right. So I think you started by saying about the call that you got from the gentleman who asked you to come and help out this elderly person who had got hospitalized and thought there was going to be people that she trusted to really take care of that house or her pets, and that didn't happen. And so for our community, we're it's a community now that has Haitian American children with Haitian parents who come from Haiti. And in Haiti, there's always a support system around families where families live together, and that's no longer the case. And so this conversation is really going to be about, one, what, in terms of aging, what is the cost? What should we be preparing for as we begin to think about generating wealth for us and our families to come? We know that our parents solely depend on us, in terms of some of our parents solely depend on us and may not necessarily be eligible for Social Security. They may not have health insurance based on the jobs that they worked. And so what should we begin to plan for in terms of cost of aging parents? And then we'll talk about the expectations.
Right. So, when you talk about the growing Haitian community, right? So I think last I checked, there was 250,000 Haitian migrants in South Florida between Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. And, it's about anticipation and planning. So there's various levels of care. There's care in the home. There's care where when you're no longer able to care for mom and dad, that we move to a more institutionalized setting, which is not what we're accustomed to or what they're accustomed to.
What do you mean when we're no longer able to care for them?
Okay.
Because some may believe that you're always able to take care of them.
Right. So of course in America, most households require 2 incomes. Right. So when you can no longer provide 24-hour supervision. Okay. For example, when cognitively your mother or father is unable to be safe alone, or physically when they have a disability or ailment that requires them to not, when they're unable to complete what we call their ADLs, their activities of daily living. So that includes grooming, bathing, brushing their hair, feeding, things of that nature. So when they're unable to complete those independently, then at that time we're required to bring some additional support. So whether that's bringing support in the home, which may be professional help, or of course in our community we have family, extended family from Haiti that comes, an aunt or an uncle or a cousin, exactly. When we are unable to provide that care inside the home, then we look at some of the adult daycares, or if it needs to be 24 hours, then we look at assisted livings or skilled nursing settings.
Right. So let's break down what are we talking about in terms of cost. I often, we talk to our friends, everyone is, you got to have a side hustle, you have your job, we're thinking about building generational wealth. And one of the aspects that we notice is that people are not thinking about what the cost of parents aging looks like. And I'll give a short story about how there was this person who we worked who came into our office, and her son, had wanted her to move to Chicago, and she was just like, "No, I'm not moving to Chicago. Right. It's cold. I got my food and he gave her $15,000 to put down on a condo." And at this point, I never knew Haitians lived in trailer homes like that. And so she bought herself a trailer home, decked it out, it had mosaic, beautiful trailer home, and at that point, they started to develop those trailer park homes. I guess not homes, but the trailer park where the grounds were. And so they developed that park, and everyone lost their trailer homes basically. And the developer only gave them $5,000 in return for their trailer homes. And she was in a place where her kids no longer lived here anymore, and her child had already provided $15,000, so I'm sure he was like, "Look, Mom, I'm over this." Right. But this is going to be another cost for him in terms of helping her to reestablish some type of home situation. And so as we're thinking about, how we're building wealth for ourselves, we're not understanding how parents getting older as they age, or if they get sick, how that can affect our finances. Let's talk about how much it costs for, let's talk about adult daycares, to be a 24-hour nurse, or even nursing homes, the different levels of care.
Right. So definitely. And these are private pay numbers, right? These are, you're paying out of pocket. So, and adult daycare is actually a relatively new concept. So adult daycare can average between $25 an hour to $75 an hour, right? So, and that's on a sliding scale based on the acuity factor of your loved one. And what I mean by that is if your parents, grandparents have dementia, they're exit seeking. So sometimes the adult daycare may provide a premium for them to take care of, because again, it's costing them more resources and such. As you transition to adult daycare to assisted living, now.
Wait. So adult daycare, when you're talking about $25 an hour, well, let's say 8 hours.
Yeah, typically 8 hours. So again, we're working, right? So and typically it's 8 to 10 hours. The hour to travel to work, hour to travel home to pick up mom. So we're talking about at minimum $250
a week,
a day. If we're talking about 10 hours.
Okay, I'm trying to do fast math. But
okay, so $250 a day, or if the person's advanced, $750 a day, right? So there are some now who has $250 a day, who has $750 a day, just for daycare, right?
Right.
For parents, for their parents. Right, so
when you already have daycare for your children,
talk about it. So and that's the intergenerational conflict that is caused, right? So sometimes we see, hey, I have my family that I need to take care of. Now I need to take care of my mom, my dad. How can I, as you talk about building wealth, how can I manage that? And sometimes that causes frustration, and it causes alienation between the child and the parent.
Right. So we talked about daycare costs, and then you're going to go to the next one.
So when you're no longer able to manage your loved one at home, and again, this is in America, it's a fairly common concept, but we can transition into assisted living. Right. So, and even before assisted living, there are some home health benefits that we can do to supplement the care at home. But even with home health in the home, if you're paying through your insurance, is maybe 2 to 3 hours a day, you know, if that. And when we say a day, that's 3 days a week. It's not every day, right? No longer able to manage at home, so we transition to assisted living. Now, assisted living, again, there are tiered.
Assisted living is what people know as nursing homes?
No.
Okay.
So assisted living typically is where there's some memory deficits.
Like retirement homes.
Yeah, retirement homes. So there are independent retirement homes where they're more geared towards building a community. Right. And then there's assisted livings where you maybe need some reminders with medication management. You know, unable to administer your medication, things of that nature. And those can range anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 a month. Okay.
So that is like from $3,000 to $5,000 a month. To me, that seems like an additional, like basically all of your expenses times 2.
Yeah.
Especially for people living in South Florida, right?
Yeah.
It becomes quite pricey.
No, it is pricey. And again, who has $3,000 to $5,000 a month, and when you multiply that by 12, we're reaching almost 100,000. You know, for a year or two. So it is pricey. So now, once you're unable to manage, or be cared for in that setting, then we transition to nursing home, right? And private pay nursing home, and we'll transition a little later to talk about Medicare and Medicaid, but again, privately, because there are some individuals that don't qualify for Medicare and Medicaid. So privately, that cost can be anywhere from about $7,000, on average per month.
Per month.
Yeah, per month. Yeah, $7,000 per month. Yeah, and again, we're talking about 24-hour nursing supervision. That doesn't and that's just room and board, right? That doesn't include medication. That doesn't include your specialist follow-ups and things of that nature. So, healthcare cost in America is extremely expensive. And when you talk about anticipation, I kind of link it to hurricane season. We're in South Florida, hurricanes, and we anticipate and we plan. And what I've found is those that do not plan for the care of their aging loved one, their aging parents, typically have a hard time navigating through the experience.
So, just to kind of like give like a recap, because some people may have joined us right now. I'm Sandra Dennis with Avanse Ansanm. We're sitting here with Kenneth Victor and Chen Senior Medical Centers, and we kind of talked about the cost. No, we talked about the cost of aging and how a lack of preparation could lead to a financial disaster. And also and we'll talk more about what it means to be eligible for some things and not eligible. Just because you live in the United States of America doesn't necessarily mean you will receive retirement. Just because you've been paying taxes doesn't mean you will guarantee you retirement or Social Security of some sort. If your immigration documents are not in place, you may not receive Medicare or Medicaid. And so all of these programs that are that seniors will benefit from, our families may not be eligible for based on certain qualifications. The other thing I want to talk about is, and I think this is like the fun part to me, the expectations of Haitian parents and their aging. And why I say this is because I believe there's a huge disconnect in or we're not talking about what the expectations of parents aging, and I think there's more expectations than we think
Right.
in terms of how parents are aging. You want to say more?
Right. Yeah. Sure. So I kind of term this as unspoken expectations.
Right.
Right. So again, placing ourselves in Haiti.
Right.
What happens when
People age, yeah.
people age? Even going through the experience with my father before he passed away. When someone is sick, what tends to happen? Initially, it's either some gas, that they're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
So they ask for some tea, some fay,
Yeah.
They asked. I can remember my brother and I getting some real Moscow tea,
Yeah.
and rubbing my dad down, just rubbing them down and rubbing and rubbing, and he would miraculously, I don't know,
You gonna feel better?
the next morning he'd be out to work, right? And in America, right, when you're not feeling well, it's what pill can we give you,
Right.
And then fast forwarding that through the aging process, it's as you get older, the village kind of cares for that aging, loved one, whereas here again the challenge is number one, everyone is working,
Everyone's working.
Everyone's working.
9 to 5 or 9 to 5
Plus.
Right.
So who's going to be home to care for that aging loved one, right?
You know what? If you allow me, I think also we no longer live close to one another anymore. So you think about, I can put myself out there. I mean, I'm the only child who lives here, and I think about my uncle. I mean, he has children, but in terms of my immediate siblings,
Right.
I live here. One lives in Boston, the other lives in Atlanta, and the other lives in Tallahassee, and that is not unique.
Right.
That is more and more the norm. Where in Haiti, families live together.
Yeah, live together, and I share the same experience as you. So my brother was living with my mom and my dad, my younger brother, and then he recently decided, hey, I need to go to the Navy.
Right.
I was living in Texas. My mom, recent widow. I was like, well, she won't be able to live alone.
Right.
So I had to make the decision to come and live with her.
Right.
As she, continues to age, so I can provide some oversight for her. So as you state, here in America, we're more spread out, whereas in Haiti, we're, in smaller communities.
And I think you nailed it. I think some of the unspoken expectations is the provision of oversight.
Right.
And so in our culture, and I think that there's a lot of things in our culture that we don't name that exist. It is the child's responsibility to provide the oversight of an aging aging parent, and not only the oversight, but the financial means to ensure that the parent or the aunt, whoever your parent figure is, can, if they no longer work, that the responsibility is of the child to really provide. And I'll be even a little bit more specific to genders.
Right.
And specific, we're 4 girls, but there are people who talk about the role of, if it's all boys, somebody's gonna have to take it, but the role of the woman child, or the daughter, what her role is in terms of the being a caretaker and being responsible for the navigating of the services. So that's a lot. That is the unspoken expectation that that we have.
Right. And as you mentioned that, so the parent, had a choice either to stay in Haiti, right, or whether they flew here or voted here or however they got here, bring their child here so that they can have a better opportunity at life, right? So as you stated, whether it's fair or not, okay, the expectation is, listen, I came here to give you a better opportunity of life. So that investment that I made, I expect that as I get older, that I can count on you to repay that back, right? And repaying that back is making sure that while yeah, you have your life, just don't forget me, right? Don't forget me,
Right.
you know, as the aging parent.
Let's talk about that. So I think in what seems more like being forgotten, and I think that actually I want to pause there because I think that a lot of us feel burdened by always having to think about and advocating for parents where other communities may not feel like it. And I think it doesn't only stem in the medical the medical field. It stems in a lot. There's a lot of ways that we have to play be advocates in terms of utilities or
Right.
house, or we're just playing the advocate role.
Right. So, you know, once upon a time, I was in the role of the administrator, right, where I had families. I was observing this, right. But then most recently, a few years ago, I became that adult child, you know. And every once in a while, my mom would get, you know, some mailings in. Kenet, kisa say, sam da fe, sam da fe, sam da fe. And I'm like, man, I don't know. I don't know, Mom. I don't know. Why you coming to me?
Right,
you know, you stressing me. I'm trying to figure myself out. But again, that's what they expect, right? And truth be told, we owe it to them, and the expectation would be that we, you know, seize that and we step up to the plate.
Right. So talk about providers and what you see maybe our population really experiencing.
Yeah, so there's a few barriers that I see. So I see it on both sides, right? So there's not enough healthcare providers that are able to that, number one, understand the culture, right? And that understand that while in America the first you know, mode of action to address an ailment may be to provide medication, whereas we're in Haiti, you know, it's, again, we're going back to the Fae, you know, we're going back to natural remedies. So just a lot of practitioners don't really have a clear understanding of the background. So that in and of itself provides some barriers. And then on the flip side, there's also some health competencies or some gaps there where on the caregiver side, on the patient side, because again, our healthcare system is super complex, right? There are people that are born here, that go to school, you know, that study medicine and still, you know, can't navigate it, much less, you know, a 70, 80-year-old Haitian mommy. Right. You know, Haitian mommy. So we have, and again, that's why there's even more responsibility that we have to step up and support that. So when we talk about kind of financial literacy, right? So there's Medicare and Medicaid. So Medicare, there's Part A, B, C, which is Medicare Advantage Plan, HMOs and PPOs, and then there are Medicare Part D. So Medicare A typically is for acute situations, hospitalizations, first 20 days of skilled nursing.
And that's 65 and up, right? Medicare population.
65 and up, exactly, 65 and up. And then Medicare Part B, that's typically, you know, specialist visits, home health, things of that nature. Medicare Part C, which is also known as Medicare Advantage, which are HMOs, health maintenance organizations, PPO, preferred provider organizations. That's a combination of A and B. And then we have Part D, which is mainly, for the most part, prescription drugs and things of that nature. So, and not many people understand that. And then Medicaid, right?
Right.
Is really financial based and more custodial, more chronic, addressing chronic conditions.
Right, right, right.
So.
And so, how could that be confusing um, to our parents or our aging family members, and like what role can we play? Because it has everything to do with how you select what plans you want.
Right.
So they turn 65, they get all these notices, they start to get calls. People are wanting them to be them to be consumers of a specific healthcare facility or a doctor. They don't know how to navigate that. They don't know how to choose. They may need transportation because you're not there. The provider that they choose may not have transportation.
Right.
So there's a lot to think about, right?
Right. No, definitely. So when someone says they have insurance, right, the expectation is that I have insurance.
Right.
And everything is taken care of, right?
Yeah.
You know, I can't remember how many times, you know, I have a loved one or someone come and say, hey, I have insurance. And I'm like, well, you don't have the right insurance, right? Or your insurance doesn't cover this, right? So again, it's being competent, doing your homework as the adult child, helping your loved one with doing the homework so that they get the plan that's right for them.
So when your parents, so everyone does not, just want to say this, everyone does not qualify for Medicare. You have to have paid into the Social Security system for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, typically it's 10 years or 40 quarters is kind of.
So about 10 years of full-time-ish work in order to benefit from from Medicare or Social Security in general. But as they're making their selections, I think even when you start to turn about 64, you start to get these notifications that you need to enroll. People start to call them, that you should really be sitting down with your parent as an adult child and helping them to make the decision in terms of what type of coverage do they need.
Right, exactly. Because again, not all coverage, it's not one size fit all.
Right.
You know, there's unique situations. And for the most part, there are some similarities. But you know, definitely you want to make sure that you're helping your loved one pick the plan that's right for them and their unique situation.
Right. I mean, I think it's sad. I want to go back to being forgotten. Right. I think it's really, I think you should share about like how many patients are coming into visits by themselves, even receiving bad news that they can't really understand the gravity of the situation, or being diagnosed with things that they don't know what it's talking about. I've often had to say, look, here are the questions you need to ask so that, we can get the information we need.
Yeah, so as you talk about the need for advocacy, right?
Right.
The need to make sure that you're not going at this monster by yourself. So we've seen at times less than 10% of patients coming into the center with their loved ones, right?
So 90% are coming in without any
by themselves,
wow,
right?
Wow.
And then so they
because of people that work, right?
Because of people that work, and of course we don't expect loved ones to come into centers every day, right? But let me tell you why it's important that we make an effort, or we find out, or we call the doctor, or and this is in any healthcare setting. So studies have shown that when you leave a doctor's office, or when you leave from your visit with your PCP, that you forget immediately 40 to 80% of what your doctor tells you. Right? So, and of that 20%, only there's a chance that 50% of that you didn't get it all right. You didn't get it all right, So
you only remember about 20%, and of that 20%, half of that you didn't. So basically, they told you should not eat this, and you heard it's okay for you to eat that.
Take this 3 times a week, but you're taking it 2. Right. And then the other thing is that when and this is outside, this is in the home setting, when patients start to take the medication. At the first sign that, oh, I'm feeling much better, what happens? They stop. You know, and the full course of healing hadn't happened.
Right.
So we go back to where we was before. So when we talk about the need, you know, I want to commend those that, you know, come with their loved ones.
I mean, they have sick days. Sick days are not only for the children,
they
for
so
your parents too.
yeah. So again, you have sick days, you have intermittent FMLA, or you can try to schedule appointments either at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day, or maybe you can leave a little early. Because it's tough for a senior to get some tough news and not know the gravity of it and doesn't share that with a loved one until it's too late.
Let me tell you, and I think a lot of us can relate to this, is that denial is real in Haitian culture, right? Haitians can live in denial and you know, there's phases of acceptance, right? So you go through denial. But I think our denial phase is like out of control. And there are so many instances of parents receiving diagnoses, and it's not until they're on their deathbed do anyone in their family actually know about what happened, right? So there was a family at my church where the woman had 3 children, and she was dying of cancer. They never knew. And they didn't know until she basically, and she didn't do chemo, so she decided not to do any care, and I'm sure that any treatment, and I'm sure that had her children known, they would have kind of like done some work to kind of convince her that she had something to live for. But they didn't know until the end. Her friends didn't know till the end, and so that's the reason why it's important to, you know, go on these visits so that we can kind of like ensure that there's no denial and that we have accurate information.
Right. So what I've seen, both personally and also, you know, with others, is that number one, there's a confidence level in the healthcare system of America because of what has happened to us as a people in the past. So when you get bad news, again, the first thing we do is, well, let's try natural remedies. And then the next thing is, well, let's look for some spiritual healers. Right? So oftentimes I hear of, and this has happened, you know, personally as well. Well, Haiti, you know. Yeah, you know, I'm gonna go to Haiti. The doctors in Haiti are gonna take care of me. I'm gonna go get healed.
I mean, I got treatment for Haiti when I was a child for asthma.
Yeah.
I did really well for a long time, and then it came back. But asthma and like what would you call it, like a cancer or HIV/AIDS is not necessarily. I don't see them to be on the same level.
No.
I mean, asthma can definitely kill you, but I think like those. I mean, that's my personal story too. My father was sick, went to Haiti for treatment for a while, didn't come back better, came back worse, and that's no shot to Haitian medical providers, but I think there's a lot of denial in there.
Right. And there is, and again, we need to appreciate advancements that have been made in medicine, right? So when you talk about that, there needs to be support there to help the loved one, because you know, accepting something, especially tough news by yourself, it's hard, you know. And we're talking about individuals that maybe have life expectancy of maybe an additional 5 to 10 years left to live, you know, to start with. And then now you give me this, what they perceive to be a death sentence. No, I'm not gonna. Who are you? You don't know me. Who are you to tell me? So it's unfair that they, you know, are navigating this, or, you know, having to go at this by themselves.
And I would also add that I think what we see a lot is our folks saying that they understand and they don't understand. And I think it's so I don't know that they may feel as if people will judge them if they don't understand. And I think that because we know there's a false affirmation of understanding, that there's also that we can't trust what the news they may be coming back with. And not to say that they will lie, but making sure that what they heard or what they understood may not be necessarily what happened. And it severely impacts us. Why? Because if it's something that you will deteriorate, or the person will deteriorate, you have to talk to your families about a situation, about housing the person, how your life will have to change in order to, be a support system to that parent, and decisions have to be made in order for that to happen.
Right, definitely. So siblings have to come together, right? And okay, well, I can take care of mom during the week, but maybe on the weekend, you take care of her, or hey, I got an extra, bed, she can come live with me, you help with this and that. But again,
you think those conversations are being had?
No, I don't think they're being had timely.
Right.
So they're being had in the midst of a crisis versus let's have that conversation, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, before we get to that point.
Right.
And again, it's the unspoken expectations, but yet and still it's conversations that need to happen, because when they don't happen, again, we go back to the conflict, and drama. And when we have drama in our community, we know how to have drama. Right? So, and we want to appreciate them for the sacrifices they made, for the opportunity that they provided us. So it's only the right thing to do to, try to have those. And sometimes, while the parent won't initiate it, you as a child have to have that courage to initiate it. Like, listen, mom, dad, I know this is not, something that we want to talk about, but listen, we have to talk about it, because I know you have those expectations, right? So if you have those expectations of me, let's not wait until it's too late.
Right.
Okay? If there's any provisions that we need to make, let's make those.
Yeah, and I would also add that why I think it's important for us to have this discussion is, one, there are not a lot of considerations in terms of thinking of your parents or your parent figures when we're making life decisions, right? And so if everyone decides to leave and your parent decides to stay, who's that emergency contact? What does that look like for them to age or to get sick? There's a lot of people who have plans to go back to Haiti.
Right.
Who's responsible for their homes? Like, all of these are things that we need to discuss now. And then even more, I think we underestimate how many of our community members have worked agency jobs that could be taxi jobs or home health aides under their table that have not paid into the Social Security system, who will not get a penny from the government. And a lot of children don't know that. Just like a lot of children didn't know that they may not have been citizens or permanent residents until they were going to college. So we're not a community that really talk about these hard topics. And so it's important for us to be nosy, investigate, know also if your parents have had diabetes, hypertension, know the complications that come with them being non-compliant, and also help them to get on tracks, because it will definitely impact your life and the family life that you're trying to create moving forward. And we're a little selfish. We don't want to deal with it. We want to ignore it.
Yeah.
And there's guilt. There's a lot of strife because of unmet expectations between parents and children. There's that sibling who has to pick up all the weight, and so sibling relationships are damaged. And you don't want to have to be making these decisions under pressure.
Right. And then, in addition to that, sometimes there's the challenge, or you still have back home in Haiti that extended family that is still reaching out and asking for financial support and resources. So when we talk about the cost of healthcare being expensive, you have people from various levels, various areas pulling away at those resources.
Especially if that person who's now sickly or now aging was financially providing for people back home. And now not only is the expectation that you provide for the aging parent or the parent that is sick, it's also the expectation that you care for the ones back home as well.
Yep.
So it's complicated.
Yeah, well, it's complicated.
I'm gonna try. We're actually doing really good on time. What did we cover?
Let me see. We talked about cultural norms.
Right.
We talked about so some solutions. And we talk about planning.
Right.
So most of our people would be looking for Medicaid benefits, right?
Mm-hmm.
So of course I'm not a Medicaid expert, so
Right.
please consult an attorney. But as you apply for Medicaid, one thing that you need to be aware of is that there's a 5-year look back, right? So I know sometimes we want to shift assets,
Right.
shift houses out of the mother's name into a child's name. And in some cases under Medicaid laws, that's a big no-no. So as we seek to
Right.
care for loved ones, we want to make sure that we're careful. Otherwise, that may impact their eligibility. So definitely, as we talk about solutions, number one, get involved. Get involved, as you stated. Be nosy. If you can't go to all their appointments, maybe make a commitment. 4 out of the 6 or 4 out of the 8. Call the doctor's office. Talk to the doctor. And then from a fiscal perspective, estate planning, reach out to an elder law professional that has experience in Medicaid, so that you can make sure that you are able to apply. Because again, whether it's $25 to $70 an hour for adult daycare, whether it's $3,000 plus for assisted living, whether it's $7,000 for skilled nursing.
And this is per month.
This is per month. We don't. Again, we don't have those resources, right? We don't.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you plan accordingly so that you can utilize those resources.
Right, and I think what I would echo is that there are expectations.
Yes.
Regardless of whether or not we're talking about it.
Yes.
The expectation is that we are their retirement plans. They're counting on us to come through for them. And we should consider what that looks like. Everyone will begin to age. And with that, activities of daily living will change, and making sure that we're keeping an eye out on it.
Right.
We're paying attention, and we're doing our best with them, and we're not letting them down, right?
Yeah, and again, I think you hit the nail on the head there with we're doing our best, right? Now, again, we have limited resources of ourselves, caring for ourselves, our families. So as long as we are doing our best, I think they would appreciate and honor the efforts there.
I'm trying to go to some questions that is being posed. Let's see. Do we have questions, producer? Okay, here we go. What are ways to plan for an aging parent? Any tips? So I think we kind of covered some of it, but we can do a little recap. I believe Haitian families do this thing called family meetings, and it typically happens around drama. It typically happens in an instant of a crisis, like you said. And I think that one of the ways to really plan would be to kind of like have these more often, if not with the parent, with siblings.
Right. Yeah. So most recently, my brother graduated from boot camp, and it was me, my older brother, my younger brother, and my mom went to the graduation. And at the hotel room, we sat down and we said, hey, listen, we have to make some decisions based on the house, based on, the health and aging of mom. This is what we decided we're going to do. So again, it's easier to have those conversations.
But wait a minute. Do you think this conversation happened because you're in the field?
Yes. Yeah. Well, yes. Because again, I see it. I see it every day.
Right.
I see it every day. And
so this is not typical.
It's not.
Right.
But it's necessary, right? Mm-hmm. It's not typical, but it's necessary. So maybe during a dinner at home, just start to, hey, what would the future look like for you? Mm-hmm. And we call that, advanced care planning, right? So what would you like the future to look like? And okay, how do we get to that point? Okay, and if we can't, what are we willing to negotiate with? What sacrifices we need to make, so that again everyone on the same page.
Right.
And like you said, we don't want to wait to an instance or a situation where there's drama to start having those tough conversations.
And I would say that, and maybe this is my personal opinion, I believe that most folks want to age in place. But I also think we need to be honest that that may not be the possibility. And I think that with our parents, especially given the Haitian concept, I don't believe there are like assisted living facilities like that in Haiti, not that I know of. And so the concept of not aging in place is tough. There's a lot of judgment around it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of, like, I've had folks that I know who parents or grandparents had to go to nursing facilities or assisted living facilities, and there's a lot of judgment. How could you? Right. But there are instances where you no longer can provide for the person, and also because there wasn't as much preparation, folks didn't know what it would take to provide for this person. And so even beginning to have those conversations is really important, because you can save towards that even now, that if you know your parents do not necessarily have an end game plan, or they're not financially in a situation where they can have 24-hour nursing care, or mm-hmm. 8 hours of that while you're at work, or when you plan to buy this home, you didn't think right. that you may need an additional room because your parent is going to get older, or when all the siblings left and moved out of the state, no one really sat down and said, actually, maybe one of us should stay close.
Right.
And it puts a lot of pressure, but these are the conversations that we definitely need to be having, especially around your financial security, because if you don't make these plans now, it's going to be a blow to your savings accounts. And then also when you're guilty, you do want.
Right.
These lavish funerals mm-hmm. and all this guilt because there wasn't, you didn't feel as if you wasn't an advocate enough or whatever that.
Yeah. So definitely we want to make sure that quality of life is sustained throughout the aging process.
Right.
Right. So definitely I agree with you.
So another question, I think we'll take two more. How do you prepare the aging parent for the conversation? I don't think they're ever ready. Just to be very frank.
Yeah, I don't think so. Although you're the adult child, right?
They still think
you're still the child, right? You're still the child. You're still the child. But that's just like if you have children, you just need to foster that relationship, and maybe you're planting seeds. I'm gonna plant a seed this month, plant a seed next month in preparation for 2020. Mm-hmm. So definitely start to plant the seed, because again in our culture, sometimes it's hard to have those tough conversations.
But if you are going to have that conversation, what would you lead with?
Well, I would, pull the elephant that's in the room. Hey, mom or dad, my hope and goal is that you have a great quality of life, right? Mm-hmm. But here's the reality of it, right? And we want to speak in reality. We have this going on, the income that's coming in, this is, the expenses that are coming out, this is the costs, and this is what we need to do to prepare. And I think
the house isn't paid off, all of that.
Exactly. So just again, put everything out on the table, and I think there's more buy-in when they're included in the decision, right? Because when you get too far along, what happens is that if you're the healthcare surrogate, then sometimes you may have to make the tough decisions. And that's where there's some animosity. That's where the relationships start to fall apart. So again, just let them know that this is about you and your quality of life. And maybe they go back to Haiti, you know. Maybe they want to age, you know, in Haiti and not here in the U.S.
And it's less expensive.
And it's less expensive, you know.
Without the quality healthcare, though.
Right. Without the quality. So again, it's so I know, you know, my situation, just kind of going back to that, is, you know, my father, he would rather die. If he's going to die, he said, you know. So if he were to pass away, he'd want to pass away in Haiti. And there's a lot of us that are building houses in Haiti in preparation for that.
Right.
For their retirement, you know. So definitely it's having that conversation, you know. So anticipate it, because it's going to happen.
It is going to happen.
Aging is going to happen. It's inevitable. And then the second component of that is planning.
I don't think we have anything else. I think we want to do a recap. You'll tell us about Kenneth, but I'll go ahead and start. It's been a pleasure, Kenneth.
Definitely.
I consider you to be a good friend. But not only are you a good friend, you're sharp. I think it's really great to highlight Haitian American professionals doing amazing things in their community, but also in their field of expertise. You're an expert, and we applaud you for the amazing work that you're doing. Avanse Ansanm is all about providing space and opportunities for folks to share their expertise to really advance our community. We know that as we age, I consider myself to be young still, as we age, our parents are aging along with us, and you're seeing more grays, we've seen them getting a little bit more fragile, and that concerns me, because, and it should concern us, because there are implications for us financially if we're not prepared. And I think this conversation was really about, one, there are associated costs with aging, anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000 a month. There are also expectations, unspoken expectations in terms of culture about aging. Haitian parents want to age in place. They do not necessarily believe in aging out of place. They're used to being surrounded by family members to take care of them, and that is no longer our reality here in these days. And how do we ensure that there's quality in a different kind of system? What would you add?
Yeah, well, I mean, you captured everything. You know, you did. But again, I would go back to communication, right? Again, we know that it is coming. So let's start to have that conversation with our loved ones. And as we have that conversation, if we have those timely discussions, then it allows us to plan accordingly, right? So if you don't know, seek out help, seek out professionals. There are professionals within the Haitian community. Again, here at Chin Senior Medical Center, we're here for the community. Here at the 125th location, we're here to care for the sick, the elderly, those that are underserved.
And Kenneth is the boss here? Can I say that?
Oh, I mean...
Yeah,
okay.
You're the boss here.
Yes, I'm the boss here. I'm the boss here. No, so I love seniors, and I love to serve, right? Whether in this space, whether I get paid to serve, or outside of this space, it's truly a blessing to care for those. And I'll kind of wrap it up again. You know, I love my culture. I love our people, and again, the sun is beautiful, setting just as much as it is a beautiful rising. That's
an amazing quote. Thank you so much. It was another crucial conversation with Avanse Ansanm. My name is Sandra Dennis, and we had
Kenneth Victor,
the Chen Senior Medical Centers. Thank you so much.